Well, forgive me if I am a bit rusty when I do this thing here because it's been a little bit of time. Wanted to put out this video, not a video, there's no video. I want to put out this audio message, podcast, whatever you want to call it, to people that are still on this channel and those that are probably wondering, if I'm dead or whatever. I don't think they give a shit, but whatever. Um, that I'm still here, and it's just that I've been figuring things out on my own behalf, and so there hasn't been a lot of attention paid towards the channel that, kind of got me connected with a lot of people that I know now. And so I figured that today I just ramble about a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not gonna, there's no real point. I'm just gonna talk because it's been so long, it's for me to kind of just talk about one subject due to the amount of time from in between, talking one-on-one. It's, been, like I said, forgive me if I'm a bit rusty because it has been a while since I've done like a one-on-one thing. So I'll just talk about whatever. We had that shooting, in New Zealand. I don't care about any of it. I really don't. This political stuff is a waste of your time. I've said that before and I'll say it again. It's a waste of your time. It's a big circus show, I'm telling you guys. It's a big circus show, all to get everybody divided against each other and caught up in all this crap. It's a waste of your time. And we've all, I think, gotten caught up into it. I know I have. But I don't pay attention to it the same way I used to. I pay attention to it on a different level than seeing the story for what it is, and I don't care about the story as much as I'm trying to understand other things about it. But that went on today, and that stuff is going to continue to keep going on. It's always breaking news, and that's why they want you to pay attention to it, They want you to pay attention to it, because it's all garbage. It's all designed to sway the public's opinion on a certain way about things, and it's not worth your time. I always thought of this, at the end of the day, we all know we're going to die at some point, and we don't know when. And you think to yourself on your deathbed, and everybody has these things where they talk about these deathbed confessions. I don't know what, I would think about things under that circumstance. But when you look back on your life and all the time you wasted paying attention to politics, was it worth it? No, not for me. And that's why I left a majority of it behind, and I don't really go into all that stuff. And I always try to see things from a different angle, because that's really what it comes down to, is seeing things from a different angle. A lot of the time we get caught up in all this stuff and we forget about what truly matters. What's really important to us is what truly matters. The friendships, which that's another thing. A lot of friendships, especially in our culture today, not just our culture, but just the way the world's going, things are not as what they seem. You're lucky. You really are lucky if you have one person that you can talk to about things. You're very lucky if you have two, and it's extremely rare that you have three or more. We live in this world where everybody, and I can't relate to people that have social media because I haven't had it in so long. I don't understand what's going on over there now. But we have all these people that have hundreds and hundreds of friends, and you're not going to talk to any of them. You might talk to half of them, if that, even less than that. But true friends that you have, it is rare. It is definitely rare that someone sticks along the ride with you for all the time. Because let's face it, people's lives change and we all go through things. And that's understandable. And you can excuse that away as saying, well, like I said, people go through things. But for the most part, it's very rare to have somebody stick through the, trudging through the muck, along this thing. And it's very hard to get people to pay attention to anything now, let alone be committed to a lot of things now. And so you can't beat yourself up over that, because you have to understand the environment and the circumstances that surround the kind of challenges that you're facing. And I've used this saying before, but you can't grow plants next to a nuclear reactor and expect there's not to get some cross-contamination at some point. My point is that, when you're living in an environment, if somebody does not understand themselves and does not, have every duck in their life in a row, then they're going to be led off astray, whether it's by themselves and, time management or whatever. They're going to be led off astray. And things are not going to work out to the best of outcomes. It takes a lot of practice. You really have to be on top of things if you're going to excel. And some people are at that point and other people are not. And I'm sure a lot of people want to be at that point. And I'm sure that people do want to excel. But it takes a lot of work. And you can't expect excellence out of everybody, because that takes a lot of dedication and a lot of relatability and teamwork to excel in anything. It takes a lot of work to get really good at something. It really does. And you have to practice, and then when you're practicing, especially if you're working with a team, you get really pissed at each other because you're always grinding on each other's idiosyncrasies. Every time they do something, it just starts to get underneath your skin, and then you just blow up, and then you have to contend with that, and that will happen. It does happen all the time. But that's human nature, and we're not all alike, and that's what makes us different. That's what makes us individuals. You don't want to be part of the hive, because you lose your individuality. So if everybody did the same thing all the time, then you wouldn't be an individual anymore. You wouldn't be thinking for yourself. You wouldn't have a personality. You wouldn't have anything. You'd just be a robotic automaton. All the things that make us who we are as people makes us individuals, and we're losing that, unfortunately. We're not losing it. We've lost it. There really isn't any kind of individuality anymore in our society. There really isn't. People are doing everything that they're expected to do, and they're falling in line just as they've been told to do. To me, this is just common knowledge. I mean, it's not shocking to me. I've known what this is about. People call, standing out from the crowd or joining a protest to be, standing up and being an individual and fighting or whatever they talk about. It's not. They're all wearing the same thing. They're part of a hive. They're all doing the same thing. It's the bandwagon effect in a lot of ways, But we've lost a lot of things in this I don't even know, there's no words to describe it. People like to put many different terms to what's going on in the world. Biblical apocalypse, revelations, whatever else people want to call it. There's definitely an upheaval. There is an unrooting of a lot of things going on. I can tell you that. I've noticed it amongst people. People are changing. A lot of the people that you thought you once knew are not really the people that they are now. Their attitudes have changed. I don't know if it's the stress. I think a lot of it's the stress. I think a lot of it is just people are so caught up into the propaganda and the minutia of it that it's turned people's minds. They've lost their minds, is what it is. We've lost the morals. We've lost our morals. We've lost our minds. We've lost our morality. We've lost any kind of togetherness or working together. That's all gone now, unfortunately. I've come to accept that because I can't sit here and sulk my whole life about wishing that things were different. That doesn't get me anywhere, and I get stuck in the same rut. And you definitely don't want to be stuck, you know, because then you'll get frozen, and you don't want to be frozen, trust me. Frozen in time. You don't want that to happen. And that's really what manifests it, is being stuck in a rut, doing the same thing over and over again. You can't just sit there and sulk. You have to make hard decisions sometimes. You got to move forward. You can't let this stuff affect you all the time. But I notice that with people. I've always been a studier of people because I don't feel like, maybe it's just the fact that I've never really truly understood people because of my encounters with certain kinds of people, I guess. Maybe it's a sense of sensitivity towards what people say or how they come across with their vocal tonalities and all the other stuff that comes along with that I've never really understood, but I've understood it, if you know what I mean. I just don't like it. And I pick up kind of on changes that happen. And there's just something off about everything now. It's like people don't care anymore. They're losing. It's what it is, isn't just, in layman's terms, it's just insanity. It's just insanity. And it's happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere all the time. Especially now. And what can you do about it? It's almost like the Alcoholics Anonymous prayer. I think it's a prayer. Forgive me for the things I've done and the things I can't change, or whatever it is. You can't beat yourself up over things you can't change, and we all do. There's a lot of things we can't change. And we can't let that affect us, because that just gets us stuck. It keeps us getting frozen, in an endless loop. Never moving forward, never making progress. It just keeps stagnating, and it's mucky water that doesn't go anywhere. What else do I want to talk about? I'm all over the place. I'm just trying to cover all the bases here. I don't pay attention to all the YouTube stuff. It's boring. YouTube is done. The only reason I'm here is because you guys are still subscribed. Otherwise, I'd be long gone. But everything outside of this channel, I don't really understand or care about. It's all a repeat of the same thing. It's the repetition. Nothing's being nothing new is being learned here among certain of these groups. And that's something I have to talk about some other time. I might talk about it now. Well, fuck it, why not? The whole thing with groups are always taken over. They're always taken over. They're always manipulated. Whether it's from an outside source or an inside source not realizing what they're doing, the people are so bought into what the group is doing because they want to feel like they're part of a group, right? The bandwagon effect. And so things continue and people follow what people say, and then it gets twisted and manipulated along the road, and people infiltrate and people say things that people believe, and they don't have their opinions anymore. It turns into this hive where everyone has to think the same way and do the same thing, and if you don't, you're out. That's never good, because you lose your individuality, and that's kind of what our society has turned into when you look at it. Everyone's part of this hive, and it's just not good. I want to talk about disappointment now. The subject of disappointment. Disappointment is part of life. You know, you can't get everything you want in life. There's just no way you can do that. It's not how things work here, because we don't live in a perfect dimension. We live in a flawed dimension, and things are not perfect. As men, I think we've all broken hearts, and we've had our hearts broken. That's all. We've all been through that, and we know how painful that is, and we don't like that. But nothing is perfect here, and you can't get everything you want. You just can't. And when you start to realize that, you're able to make better decisions for yourself, because you realize what you shouldn't be doing and what you should be doing. What's worth investing your time into and what's not. That's wisdom. And when you can realize that, it makes life a little bit easier, because you know what's worth getting involved in and what's not. That comes from experience. And we might not like the outcome of those circumstances, but it's better to take the pain right then and there than to drag it on for God knows how long. You have to make the decision right then and there. And we all come to the point where we have to, make tough decisions. And they're not fun to make, but you have to make them for your own sanity, whatever's left of your own sanity, because I don't think anybody's really that sane anymore. No one's really sane. You would literally, it sounds kind of hypocritical in a way, but you would have to be insane to be sane in this society. Or I should say vice versa. You would have to be completely, that was right. You would have to be completely insane to think that you're normal in this society. We all pretend to be like we've got everything under control and we've got it handled, but unless you're like a sociopath and you don't feel anything, I don't know what to tell you about that. But we all go through these ups and downs all the time. But disappointment will be something of, it's just part of life. It's just part of life. You have to deal with disappointment. And you're going to be and we're going to be dealing with a whole lot more of it as time goes on. We're going to be even more disappointed with how things go. So it's even more important that we realize what's worth investing our time into, the more disappointed we become with the circumstances of our world. And it's not really our world either. We don't control anything here. But as time goes on, we become more and more disappointed with the outcomes and the things that go on in the world and the injustices that we see. We have to let all that go. And we have to stop caring about it, because it's something that we can't control. Not outside of our own minds, we can't control it, and even that's questionable, what goes on even in our own heads. So we have to become experts at realizing what's worth investing our time into. Also, what's worth taking gambles on. Gambling is an educated guess. It might seem pointless, but it is an educated guess. And there's a lot of things that we gamble on in our life, whether or not we should buy that car, or whether or not we should own that house, whether or not we should have that friend, whether or not we should go to that event or spend that money. Those are all gambles, but they're very educated gambles. And some gambles are more thought of, and there's more information to be made, more things to think about, more information to be had to make an educated guess. And other choices, we don't have as many options. But the point about disappointment is that it will happen. It will happen all the time, and it's going to keep happening. So we have to be more aware of what we do and what's worth investing our time into. Your heart's, if you, and this is the other thing, you know, I've contemplated this for a long time, whether or not humanity is evil, whether or not the human is inherently born evil. And I think people want good. You know, I don't think we want chaos, because chaos is uncontrollable. That's why it's called chaos. And if you don't have control, and people when they think of chaos, they think of like a without rule of law situation. It's not like that. It's complete chaos. It's burning, it's destruction, there's no hope, it's complete insanity. That's chaos, and there's different levels of chaos. Ultimate chaos is destruction of everything. There's nothing left. You're just done. That's ultimate chaos. And we're living more in a world with chaos, and it's getting worse every day. I think we can all see it's getting worse. It's getting worse every day, but the problem about it is that if you don't realize that what's the baseline, what's normal, then you'll think chaos. You'll say, well, that's always been happening. Yes, bad things have been happening. Yes, everything. Yes, bad things do happen, but the frequency and the intensity and the side effect of those events are getting worse. You know, things are changing in not a good way. I don't know where I was going with that, but I just felt like it needed to be said. I find that when I get older, as time goes by, I lose more patience for things. And I guess that kind of relates to more about what kind of experience you have. And realizing that, you know, what's worth investing your time into, and you just don't tolerate it once you see it. You become so good at picking out what's worth it and what's not worth it that you just don't have the patience because it's obvious what the outcome will be. I don't care about what goes on YouTube because it's not worth my time. Because the people are not worth my time. There's a different level of appreciation I have versus things that are not worth my time. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate people's input. And I appreciate people's wanting to know, because I feel that in our society, I'm going to go, like I said, I'm all over the place, but there's so many things, you know, that I want to say. But I think one of the reasons why radio and podcasts do so well is because people are inherently very disappointed and very lonely. We live in a very lonely society now, a very lonely world. You know, our morals are gone. Our governments are corrupt. They were born corrupt. There's no. Our governments were made corrupt. There is no good in the government. The people are not on your side. These people are not on your side, and they never will be. So get that out of your head about going to the legislation and changing bills. Get that out of your head. That ain't never going to change. Those people have an agenda, and they will complete that agenda come hell or high water, whether you like it or not. Whether you think it's stupid or not stupid, it doesn't matter what you think. They're going to do it, and they have a say. They got the money, and they got the power, whether you like it or not, or whether you think it's right or wrong. It's irrelevant. Your opinion does not mean anything because you don't have the money, you're not in that position, and you don't have the power. It's out of your control. So what's the point of getting upset about it? And people make the argument, will say, well, I live in this town, so thus my God, I live here, and thus, what the laws are falling under me, so I should care. It doesn't matter. You still don't have a say, and you don't have the money. And your vote does not matter. Sorry, it doesn't. These people have money and power in the military and all this stuff behind them. Your opinion is worthless in the eyes of these people, and it's a fact. Your opinion is worthless because of things that you're not aware of. But aside from that, I think we live in a very lonely society because of the fact that things are breaking down. People are unrelatable now. That's one thing I wanted to mention, that people, as far as relating one-on-one to another human being, that's one of the benefits that I've had by meeting, the friends I've met through some of these communities, is that I do get to speak to them one-on-one. And I might not agree with everything they say, but there's no point in me getting upset about or disagreeing about something that they said. Because we have to value the kind of relationships and friendships that we have, even though sometimes we might not get along or we might argue. But if you can still keep coming back and they haven't completely dropped you solid, then that's important, because that's very quickly fading in our world. And that's why I think podcasts do so well, because they feel that they can listen to somebody. Listening to somebody makes you feel better. It makes you, those nights that you're working alone or you're sitting in your room alone, you can listen to that voice speak out what you believe is some kind of reason in a world without it. Relatability is what it is. And that's the only thing we have left. And that's that's going too, because people's minds are going. I think that's why this channel did so well, is that I guess I related to people. I just kind of spoke my mind. I just kind of said the things that, how my opinions on stuff, and people liked it. So I must have been doing something right. But I never tried to, anytime I do these videos, I don't script them. I don't write notes down or nothing. I just, whatever comes into my head and says, I just talk. I guess people like that. It's natural. Makes me feel more relatable. Instead of doing these fucking well-polished videos that everyone seems to enjoy so much. I hate that stuff. I appreciate a channel or some kind of podcast or whatever it is that I appreciate when they just do it raw and real, because it's more relatable. I've always enjoyed that, because it makes you act like a human being and not a corporate spokesperson where your stuff has to be up to par and all this kind of crap. Stuff is worthless. One of the biggest worries or problems, I guess I should say, that I think we might be facing here, boys and girls, is that your fellow human is losing his mind. And it's becoming harder for us to relate to other people. Unfortunately. It's lucky that we have people at least realize that the ones that are not caught up in all this political drama or socio-economic drama or group dynamics, and they're looking at things from an outside the box perspective, those are good people, even though you might not agree with them, because at least with them, they understand at least a higher level of understanding how things work here. And those are good people to have around. If they stay around, don't expect anything perfect in this world anymore, because things are going downhill. We can all know that. But no one wants to admit that. You see, that's the thing I think that they talk about. I guess it's called collapse porn. I don't describe that. I don't use those terms. I just say it like it is, and no one wants to say it like it is because it scares people or they don't agree with it. You know, that's another thing. I think it's to prove my point. I think when you start expecting hope, then you know you're in trouble because you know that there's an insecurity of the outcome. When you start saying there's still hope, that means you're in trouble because you know that there's a problem with it to begin with, that you have to address it, then there's a problem. When you have to say, well, there's still hope, well, that means that things have gotten bad enough that you're wishing for hope to still be there. You're wishing for hope to still be there because things have gotten that bad that you've realized that you have to say those words. Another piece of advice I would give is that enjoy your life the best you can. For me, I like to play video games with my friends. I enjoy it. I love the time I get to spend playing video games with my friends, even though sometimes something might not go our way. I don't care. It's a game. We have fun. That's what makes it fun, because we take it serious. And what makes that so much fun when we get into disagreements is that we have detached ourselves successfully from the world completely, to the point where our worries now are based on a video game. That's awesome. You know, that means it works. The drug works. It works great. When you're worried about whether or not you covered my flank or not, that's fucking great. I love that. That's good. That's good news. That's good news. You know, we're not worried about whether or not we've paid our bills or any of this crap. We're worried about we're in another world. And we're getting upset in another world and not this one. And that's good because this one's done. You know, our minds are focused in on something else. We're contemplating and disagreeing and having fun in another world that we've created and that we're manipulating and that we're playing in. And that's what I value and I love the most about it. When I look, you know, and during the moment it's not fun because you're mad, but then you look back on it and you're like, oh man, that was awesome. You know, that was good stuff. We had fun. And so my advice, another piece of advice or advisement, is to enjoy yourself and enjoy the time you have with your friends, however many you have, if you're lucky to have them, because it is hard to find good friends. It is hard to find good people you can talk to and relate to. I don't want friends that always agree with me. I don't care about any of that stuff. It's just the camaraderie. It's the ideal and it's the routine that I like. That I can sit there and know that we can make this thing happen. And that we can do this thing and we can have this routine. That's what I value the most of it. It's not you agreeing with me and you know, butt kissing. It's not about that. It's about knowing that there's some kind of stability because we have so little of it. We have so little of it. We have so little stability. Everything's upheaval now. Everything's, you know, this group over there and this group over there is fighting with each other. Okay, that's boring. I don't care about any of that. It's boring. It's happened over and over and over again, and it's going to keep happening until there's nothing left and the fucking wheels fall off of this place. I already know how that game ends up. It ends up in destruction. You know, that game ends up in destruction. The ultimate end goal of all of this stuff is destruction. You should realize that by now, and you should have coped with that and realized it and moved on and started to value the things that you care about the most. Not contemplating or worrying about all this other crap. Because the outcome is pretty freaking obvious. If your head, if you're now, yeah, if you've gotten shot in the head by a bullet through your brain, you're more than likely going to die or end up terminally severely in trouble, paralyzed, and a vegetable because you can't recuperate from something like that. So the outcome is pretty obvious. So now that we know the outcome, we can cope with the loss and move on. That's not as easy. It's easier said than done, of course, but we have to work towards that. We have to work towards moving on, and you know, unfortunately, people don't want to move on. They want to keep. They want to keep doing it. They keep want to doing CPR on a dead person because the problem is that's all they have left, and I understand the detriment of realizing that. I myself have had problems letting go of relationships. That was a big problem for me, man. I had a big problem with that. I had a big problem with letting go of relationships. I'd hang on to it till the fucking wheels fell off, even after all the self-abuse and the abuse done. Because I had nothing, in that time in my life, I had nothing else to fall back on, so I had to make it work. I had to make something work, and it never did work out because it was done and over with. The time had passed, and that's a problem that I still have with some things. It's hard for me to move on from stuff, but I fight it, and I'm successful most of the time, sometimes, and other times I'm not. But we have to try to enjoy ourselves the best we can. These are just kind of life lessons I've learned and I'm still learning to take in and apply to myself. We have to try to do the best we can. We've got to try to have what we can left, what's left of what's going on here. We've got to try to make the best of what we've got, because there's not too much good news, and the outcome is more than likely not going to be a great one. But for me, that doesn't bother me. I don't get depressed, or I used to stay up at night wondering and being really depressed and upset about where things are going. But at some point, I got so sick and tired of sitting there being depressed about all of it. I just said, fuck this. I'm burnt out on this. I can't keep doing this. And I moved on. And I let it go. And I have no, and that took me years, because like I said, I have a problem letting things go. I really do. I want something to work really badly. If I really like it, I really want it to work. And I will spend years and years trying to figure out a way, if it's something really worth that I feel value to, I will figure out a way to make it work until I have tried absolutely everything I could. If I will try my best to make something work, and if it doesn't work out, then I end up, for the most part, feeling very upset about the fact that it didn't work, because I wanted it to work so badly, and I gave it everything I could. And a lot of people don't appreciate that. And that's just because they're human. They don't understand. And that's fine. But we have to try to make things work the best we can. With the little time that we have, because we never know when we're going to die. And I don't mean to get morbid here, but it's the truth. And don't think about it either, because that doesn't help at all. Because that just puts even more pressure on you to try to make something work, out of nothing. You kind of have to go with the flow in life. A lot of it's just going with the flow and putting effort into things, and hopefully they turn out the best way. But with all this stuff going on politically or whatever, politics don't matter. In the long run, it doesn't matter. None of that stuff fucking matters. It doesn't matter. It is not worth investing your time into. It is a circus show, and it will go on. And then once this place is destroyed, it will go on again. It's gone on since the beginning of time. It is an old story that can't be changed. As far as, and the reason why it can't be changed is because of the flaw in the mathematical equation of reality. There is a big flaw in all of this, and you're dealing with forces here that you just can't change. We're just we're just like little peons in this thing, man. It's just so big, and we know so little about it, and we think that and we do our best, and we are learning more and more, but we don't know nothing compared to what it really is. What we know is a drop compared to what it really is a freaking ocean. We know a drop, and that's a big drop. Or I should say that's a very small drop compared to what it really is. It's the size of an ocean. But we do our best, and that's how I decide to spend my time, is trying to learn about how the world works, and what kind of world I live in, and how things really work. And from my experience, politics is a waste of your time.